Hi everyone, I'm really happy to be back with this new video and I wish you a very happy new year 2024. May this be a fabulous year for you, and I'm really happy to start off this year with this video about the energy forecast for 2024, as I usually do every year. So the energies of 2024 are very interesting, and I think it's going to be quite a memorable year because a lot of things might happen in 2024, globally actually, but also of course individually. So the first thing I wanted to say about 2024 is that this is a year where the element of fire is very present. It is a fiery year. We had in 2023, it was more like the energy was more around earth, around grounding, about rebuilding the structures and anchoring ourselves and going back to matter so that we could really anchor ourselves into the earth and build a solid foundation. So that was 2023. And maybe you remember that I was talking about the launch pad of a rocket that we were building in 2023. We were building the base for the rocket to take off. Well, we have the rocket now. It's ready to take off in 2024. The engines are starting and we can start seeing also the fire, underneath the rocket firing up. But the rocket is not going to take off in 2024. The rocket is going to take off in 2025 because that's the year where the big shifts will happen. That's the end of a cycle for humanity. And we can say that 2024 is like it's the last stretch, it's like the finishing line before we have this big shift in 2025. And 2026, that's the beginning of a new cycle for humanity. So I like to say that 2025 is like we are setting the first stone of the new earth, because we are starting to see that the new is really coming in and becoming more present. And 2026 is really like a new fresh start for humanity. A lot of things are going to change in 2024 and 2025, of course. So to talk about a little bit the element of fire, there are many aspects that are associated with fire. And the first one, of course, is destruction. It's burning down, something. Burning down to the ashes, something that we don't need anymore, something that is obsolete. And there's this element of destruction, but destruction also means that we enter a process of transformation. And fire is the element, it's the alchemical element for transmutation and transformation. So through destruction, through transmutation and transformation, we then have the third aspect, which is for me the most interesting, and it's also because of that element that I actually titled this video The Baptism of Fire, which is the sacred fire. And the sacred fire is something that will be awakened for us in 2024, because a lot of light workers are going to go through many big phases of awakening in 2024. Of course, the human collective will also go through these awakenings, but on different levels, because we are different soul groups, and according to our level of evolution, we don't experience exactly the same awakenings at the same time. But we will see that more and more we will be feeling that there is a kind of merging of the timelines too. So we will experience awakenings, and we will see that these awakenings will also more and more be reflected in the collective through what will be going on in 2024. And the baptism of fire is also something that is very sacred. So there are many levels also of meaning to that. So it can of course mean like challenging times, going through certain initiations, or I would say like a rite of passage. That's really what I'm feeling actually for humanity on a collective level, is a kind of rite of passage. But it's also biblical. It tells us also about the baptism of Christ, which is through the Holy Ghost. And the symbol for the Holy Ghost is actually the dove with wings of flame coming to baptize Christ by activating that Christ consciousness on the third eye. So that's really interesting, because for me that means the awakening of consciousness, the awakening of Christ consciousness, and the awakening of our own inner sacred fire, which is also linked to the life force energy. You know, that's what gives us the momentum, that gives us life, that's what gives us, you know, the passion to create and to serve the world in a way. So it's also the light of our soul. So that's really exciting, and I think it's going to be really important to focus on those aspects specifically during this year. So these awakenings, these kind of initiations that we are going through. And remember that these are really high initiations that we are, you know, kind of invited to go through so that we can awaken even more that sacred inner fire. Another aspect I wanted to mention, and I like to also, you know, when I do these forecasts, to actually connect also to tarot. I really like tarot. And every time I was thinking about 2024, since the last couple of months, I always had in my mind the image of the tower, the tower card. So that's a major arcana. And if you don't know that card, it actually symbolizes, you know, you can see a tower and you can see a lightning bolt actually hitting the tower and two people jumping out of the tower. And that tower card really relates to really surprising events, something that we did not expect that are happening, that are sometimes shattering also because, you know, it kind of, you know, that tower is actually being shaken. And that's also why the two characters are jumping off the tower. And of course it tells us about the fire element, because we have this lightning bolt. So that's really the theme, also the energy theme for 2024, which is maybe unexpected events, tower moments, what we call tower moments. So very, you know, kind of challenging and unexpected things that happen really rapidly, because another aspect of the fire element through 2024 is also that things are going to speed up. There's going to be a very huge acceleration on every level, awakenings, events, actions. We will also be called to action, and these actions will happen really quickly. Sometimes we will be invited to do this, then do that, then do this, and so we need to be really aware and calm our nervous system down a little bit so that we don't get burnt out. And another aspect of this fire, and this time it's really relates to the fire that is actually the destroyer, and that's burning down things that need to be destroyed, is that another theme for the energy of 2024 is really the dismantling of the control system. That's kind of the start, the beginning of the end of the control system as we know it, which also relates to our own control structures that are connected to the ego consciousness that we have within. So we will be invited to actually, you know, become more aware of these control structures that we have within us and let go of them. At the same time, we will see that happening also in the collective. And to come back just briefly to the tarot, because I had that image in my head of the tower card, I thought, okay, that's the main energy for 2024, but I would like also to pick another card and maybe ask what we can expect else, what other energy is going to be present in 2024. And the card that came up was the Hermit. So that's really interesting, because I'm also, you know, I have a new book coming out. For now, it's in French, but I will let you know. It might be translated in English very soon. I'll let you know about that very soon. I'm very excited about this book, by the way. I haven't mentioned it in the beginning, but I'll tell you more another time. And I was mentioning that Hermit in my book. That's actually the only tarot card I mentioned, I think. The Hermit helps us to go through darkness. So the Hermit really enters the cave in complete darkness. And within that darkness, the Hermit is capable of actually meeting with his own inner light. And with the light of his consciousness, he is able to lighten up everything around him. And that's why he's often shown with a lantern in his hand, because he's actually, you know, bringing the light. He's showing the way towards the light. And he also has this, his pilgrim stick. So the Hermit is really an energy of wisdom. It's also a spiritual guide. It's also a master, a spiritual master. And so this really tells us about 2024 that we need to awaken that inner master, that inner guide that will, guide us to the light and will show also the light to the rest of the human collective, because we are, as light workers, guides for the collective. So connecting with the energy of the hermit, and also the hermit is telling us about, like becoming aware of our shadow aspects and integrating our shadow aspects through the light consciousness, our awareness, bringing light into the dark. So really interesting. Let's remember the hermit for this year. I'm sure it's going to be of great help. The Chinese New Year is also soon upon us, and the new sign for 2024 in the Chinese astrology is the dragon of wood. So even though it's not the dragon of fire, still I think that the dragon symbolically is very connected to the fire element. It's connected to passion, it's connected to willpower, it's connected to our inner strength. So again, a year of fire with the year of the dragon. It's going to be really a very fiery year, 2024. So now I would like to share certain images, certain visions that came to me. The first one was I was seeing people on the streets clashing, and kind of like not as like a civil war, but more like demonstrations that were becoming violent, actually. So that's the first thing I saw. Then the second thing I saw, which was more, I think, a metaphor, was I was seeing nurses taking care of people people who were wounded during a war. So I was seeing this kind of war environment with people who were wounded and nurses taking care and helping these people. So I don't know exactly how to interpret that image, I have to say, but the way I was feeling it is that it was a metaphor for the light workers helping, guiding, taking care and healing the wounded human collective. That's how I felt it. Because 2024 is going to be pretty much a tough year, I think, with things happening. Probably these people will need that help. They will maybe have traumas, or they have wounds coming up, and they just need healing, they need help, they need guidance from the light workers. But of course it can also relate to actual war. So who knows, maybe it tells us also about war going on. And of course I've been also mentioning that war energy last year, so it's also ongoing. But again, I don't feel it like being a huge like world war or something like that. It's more like, conflicts here and there, but not something that is really impacting globally humanity on the planet. Because there is this theme around control and dismantling of control, and this beginning of the end of the global control system on this planet, there might be something happening in 2024 around that theme, in the sense that it might be like the last attempt to gain more control, or to, assert world domination or whatever. It's almost like a desperate act, almost like it's the last card that the shadow has to play for humanity. And we need to be really aware of, how these control structures also have been functioning for so long. And it's always about division. It's always, divide and conquer. So the more we are falling into that trap of division, the more we have chances to actually fail that kind of test, because this is almost like the final test for humanity. I was talking about this rite of passage for humanity, the baptism of fire. That's really connected to that. So there might be something around that. I don't know exactly what. It might be a repetition of something that we had in the past years. So, also mentioning that metaphor with the nurses, so maybe it can also be around that. But it can also be something like totally unexpected and totally new that we haven't seen yet, like this last card that we didn't expect at all. So, I don't know, we'll see. And anyhow, I really feel that around also the the Olympic Games in Paris, there's a very strange energy going on there. So I'm not saying that there's going to be something really bad happening, but I do want to mention that if you can be, you know, somewhere else than in Paris at that time, I think it's better. Don't visit Paris during the Olympic Games, because yeah, there's something, I don't know, there's a strange feeling around that period and the Olympics. Another message that came through was concerning AI. So I know this concerns a lot of people, you know, it can be quite frightening, and certainly there are many timelines possible concerning AI. Of course, we have a timeline where, you know, AI can take over humanity and it becomes this really dystopian society that we see for decades in science fiction movies, for example. Or we have also a timeline where AI is actually, you know, helping humanity and creating a better world, etc., etc. That timeline really exists as well. So I really recommend that you connect to that timeline and not the other. But globally, the message was also that we really need to take really good care of the time that we spend with technology, because as you know, we become like the thing or the people or the environment that we are with the most. So if we spend a lot of time in front of our screens, our computers, tablets, phones, or whatever, it's almost like our energy is merging with that technology. So that's really something that came strongly. We are merging with that technology, and also it affects our magnetic field. You know, it affects our third eye, so it kind of blurs everything here, so we are not receiving all the, we are not as intuitive as we can be if we spend too much time in front of a screen. So let's be really mindful about that, and you know, if we can avoid the screen and use it only for work. I need, of course, to be in front of a screen for work, but I try to dissociate from technology and spend time more in nature, with people, with animals, and connecting to the divine, of course. And we really need to balance that out, because the risk is really that through our energy merging with technology, it's really related to AI in the end, because that's what they want to achieve, you know, like a merging of humans and robots and technology and everything. But it can always already happen also within our own homes if we spend too much time with technology. So that's really that awareness that we need to have when we are in a relationship with technology. And finally, I'm going to mention astrology, because as you know, first I receive information and then I like to look at the astrology, and it's very interesting because sometimes I really have validation of what I received before, and this year it's definitely the case, because the main event of 2024 astrology-wise is that Pluto, the big planet Pluto, it's not big, actually it's small, but I mean it's powerful, so it has an impact. And Pluto is entering Aquarius in January. And it will stay there until September, so it's going to go retrograde in May. Then in September it's going to go back into Capricorn, and then on the 19th of November it's going to enter Aquarius for good, and it's going to stay there for 20 years. So we will have Pluto in Aquarius until 2043. So that's a huge amount of time. And Pluto is the great destroyer, it's the great transformer. So when it enters the sign of Aquarius, which is a sign that is connected to revolution, to anything that is new and, you know, unseen before, very avant-garde sign, Aquarius, then we will certainly see a lot of change and revolutions happening on this planet. So what I feel is that it's entering Aquarius, then it's going to go retrograde, so it's almost like it's, you know, kind of dipping that little toe in Aquarius just to have a feeling of what it's going to be like. Then it's going to go back in Capricorn, and then it's going to dive right back into Aquarius, and then we will have this energy going on for 20 years. Pluto is also connected to you know, the world finance, the world power. It's also connected to the shadow. So we will have going on a lot of revolutions concerning all these areas on our planet. And of course, it's almost like it's preparing us for the entry in the era of Aquarius, the age of Aquarius. So the age of Aquarius is going to be a little bit more further in time, but Pluto in Aquarius is going to act as a transformer for everything, and it's going to prepare everything for the age of Aquarius to dawn completely on Earth. A very, very interesting period that we are entering, and definitely 2024, 2025 are going to be really huge years of transition and change. That's definitely the case. Another very interesting aspect, and you know, I was telling you about this image that I received about these demonstrations on the street and kind of violence and kind of, you know, people, you know, hitting each other, and yeah, it was not really pleasant to watch, I have to say. So what I discovered is that we have a similar aspect in 2024 compared to what happened in 68. So namely in, you know, the period of May 68. I don't know exactly what happened in other countries in the world, but I know that in France there was a kind of revolution on the streets, like huge demonstrations of students. It was a very pivotal moment in the history of France, actually, and I think in other countries too, actually. I don't have it in mind right now. And so this can also mean a kind of repetition of that period. And that aspect is actually that the North Node is going to be in Aries, South Node in Libra, and Chiron is also in Aries. Chiron is going to cross the path of the North Node in Aries, and that's the aspect that we had also in May 68. So who knows? It's maybe a validation of what I saw. The other interesting aspect that we have is Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus that are going to be conjunct. So the exact conjunction is on the 21st of April. And Taurus is not a revolutionary sign, quite the opposite. Actually, Taurus is very, like, it likes stability, it's actually very traditional, etc. And Taurus doesn't, you know, doesn't get irritated or angry very often or very easily, but when it does, like the animal, it really gets angry, and it's really gonna be, you know, like tough. So that's something I feel around this conjunction with Uranus and Jupiter, because Uranus is connected to the sign of Aquarius, which is revolution, unexpected events, you know, like really groundbreaking things. And Jupiter is the planet of expansion, so everything that Jupiter touches, it enhances. So there's really an enhancement of that energy with that conjunction. Not only that, but it's also a period where we will have these the annual eclipses, which will happen in the Libra-Aries axis. So we will have on the 25th of March, I think, a lunar eclipse in Libra. On the 8th of April, we will have a solar eclipse in Aries, and on the 2nd of October, we will have a solar eclipse in Libra. So if you are Libra or Aries or Aquarius, I think that next year is going to be your year. There's going to be a lot of groundbreaking things happening for you, that's for sure. And so, you know, you can kind of mark the dates and remember those dates, because very often the eclipses, they really tell us about beginnings and endings, and radical ones. So that can be really also, you know, something interesting to watch during the year. And as I said, it's really in that spring period that we have the most intense energies with that conjunction, with those eclipses happening, with a very fiery energy again with the sign of Aries. So maybe a period definitely to watch. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope that 2024, you know, starts on a good mood for you. And I will come back regularly, of course, with new videos during the year to, you know, transmit certain messages when we need them. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Don't forget to subscribe and like and comment this video. It really helps the channel. And you can also subscribe to my social media. Telegram, I have a Telegram channel, I have Facebook, I have Instagram. See you soon. Sat Nam, take care.